Welcome to Killer Psychologist, where we examine the intersection of psychology, crime, and justice. Today, we're tackling a case that highlights the devastating consequences of medical neglect in custody. On January 14, 2024, 32-year-old Joshua Garbutt died in the Trinity County Jail after being denied essential medical care. His death has sparked a lawsuit and raised serious concerns about accountability with jail staff. Today, I have Joshua's mother, Stacy Pohlmeyer, and I would say it's a trigger warning today. It's very emotional. This has affected a lot of families, not only highlighting the problems with this case, but offering some solutions. And I have with me here today Brian Townsend, and he is a former DEA agent, and he's going to discuss his nonprofit that focuses on educating people about fentanyl use. So thank you both for being here today. Brian, I would love to touch base with you first and just share a little bit about your passion and how you got involved in starting your own nonprofit.
Hi, good afternoon. I spent the last 30 years in law enforcement. I was a police officer and then a special agent with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I saw firsthand what drugs have done to our communities, to families across the United States. And after I retired, I had to figure out how to make that part of my life still. How could I continue to serve the public and help people? One of the things I did was start a nonprofit called Only 2MG. And our goal was to raise awareness, especially about illicit fentanyl, the fact that it's so deadly and it's changed the landscape of drugs in this country and experimentation, drug use, everything. I've never seen a drug more dangerous than fentanyl and impact so many people. So we started Only 2MG. The entire board of directors is retired DEA agents, and I travel across the United States educating people, anyone who will listen. My primary audience has been law enforcement, but I certainly have a lot of folks in healthcare, education, who come to my presentations. I'm excited to announce that in about a week, I'll have my 100th presentation delivered in the state of Maine. So we've had a lot of success with this, but the work is far from over. After 30 years, I've never seen a drug with such a profound impact, and got to do what we can do to reduce that.
Thank you so much, Brian. I know you and I met the other week and had a heart-to-heart conversation, and I just love your passion and all the dedication and work you put into this. It sounds exhausting at times for you, trying to convey this message and trying to be proactive to let people know the dangers. But I know you mentioned to me, sometimes you go to schools and nobody shows up or wants to listen sometimes.
Yeah, it is frustrating. A lot of parents are kind of out of sight, out of mind when it comes to things like drugs and other serious matters that impact our families or our loved ones. So yeah, it has been frustrating, but I've had more successes, and I have to lean on those. And I know I've impacted a lot of people, and that feels pretty good. And that, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me going on. Talked to a lot of young people, especially in the last year, who've told me very personal and incredible things, and about their lives and about the choices they've made and how they want to do better, and they want to make better choices and get the help they need. And I hope more people understand that there are people out there that are compassionate and want to help them with their struggles. And I know there's a stigma to drug addiction, but people there to help you, and we want to help you find that.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. And Stacy, I just wanted to connect with you mother to mother. I'm a mom of boys, and I can't imagine losing one of my boys. So I know this has been extremely horrifying, what you've gone through. And I know you and we spoke about an hour and a half the other day, and you did send me the legal complaint was 55 pages, and I did review it this morning. I have to say, it was shocking.
And for 10 months, I had no idea what had happened to him. 10 months. And, of course, he, so it was it's very shocking. It brought me to the ground.
Brian, I know you and I are passionate about this topic, and I just wanted to share my role for anyone that's even listening for the first time. So as a forensic psychologist, I help people with mental health issues who are involved in the legal system. That's the easiest way to explain it. And I worked for the emergency room, 5150s. I worked in the psych hospital, 5150s, thousands of them. Worked in the jail. I've worked in outpatient parole, state hospital. So I understand mental illness and substance use. And most of the time, the people I see, there's substance use issue, there's a mental health issue. And one of the things that I help with is assessing risk and intervention and getting someone immediately the help they need. And I had the experience of working in corrections and jail, and I made some observations. And let me tell you, I was not happy with what I saw. I was pretty deplorable. And through the years, through the last 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work across settings, across the United States, in multiple jurisdictions and county jails, and have had different observations. And so in reading the civil complaint and with my experience and just what I've seen, the problems that seem to be reoccurrent is that it's just still shocking this currently with all the resources we have that there's not appropriate medical intervention in jail. Now, I'm really familiar with medical intervention because I worked in the psych hospital and we were equipped. That's all we did all day. And sometimes we would take individuals that were transferred from the jail. But my role now as an independent contractor is that I can be hired to go to the jail to assess someone for a psychiatric acuity review and have them immediately transferred out. And so I don't see a lot of correctional institutions using this or using me in that capacity. And so one of the things I just wanted to highlight today is that is a role that I can do, and that every county council, every county should have a system in place to address, an extreme medical intervention. This should all be happening within the jail. These systems should already be in place. And even when they're already in place, you still have someone like me you could hire outside that to come in immediately and assess and get a court order or prevent. So when it comes to imminent matters, which means death. And jail is one of it's the highest risk for the most part. And I see maybe 15 to 20 individuals a month in jail. For the most part, they were under the influence of a substance, and a good percentage of them are actually withdrawing. And so one of the things I do is I immediately get their records and make sure they're on the withdrawal protocol or they're getting medical attention and that they're stable or safe before I even go see them. So I'll immediately, the same day I'm appointed to see them, just a regular cases, not even an acuity review, I will look at their record and make sure. And it's a standard that I think everyone should have across the board to get the records, to get the medical record, to see how that person's doing and see them immediately, right? And take that life-saving measures. And so it's been really hard for me to see in different county jails and across settings. Some aren't keeping records, some are handwritten records, some aren't getting medical attention, or they're having even the correctional officers give the medications.
Did you read that part of that?
I did. And I recently encountered a jail where the deputy admitted he was giving the meds. And so it's shocking. And my sister's a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner. So I understand all the protocols that should be happening. And in that case, where I observed the deputy giving meds, I put it in my report. And then I was never asked to write reports for that court again. That's kind of how they solve their issues, like anybody that calls someone out on the protocols. But the reason why I'm talking about these protocols, they're so critical and important. And there's some disconnect between the jail and having medical staff. Like it blurs the line. They're having deputies who aren't medical staff. And I did read in the report that one of the deputies was dishonest and said that he got the medication when he did not.
Huh.
And that's the problem right there. That's shocking. And I know that happens because I follow those protocols when medication is given, who gave it. And I actually know sometimes the nurses lie or never give the meds and they just check a box. And in some counties to date, it's paper and pen, and they're just Xing. So there's no electronic system. It blows my mind because it is 2025. So I'm happy to bring awareness to these issues, and there has to be accountability.
That's shocking that there weren't medical professionals involved in monitoring and dispensing medication.
It's unbelievable. He was in there for 3.5 days. And he knew he had been in there 2 weeks before because, fentanyl. I had no idea about fentanyl. I don't know. And I just, obviously he had recently started doing it. And so I had no idea. I don't even know what it looks like. And so he had been picked up 2 weeks prior, and they took him right to they took him right to the hospital. So we have those medical records, right? And so when he got picked up, he said, I'm going to have to go. He got picked up on petty theft, obviously trying to get his short fix. And he told the officer, I'm going to have to go to the hospital because otherwise I'm going to die. They had to take me last time. And so it's extremely hard because it just 3.5 days, and he screamed for help, screamed. As a mom, you're like, he's 32 years old. I hate that he got wrapped up in drugs. But you always feel safe that they're going to jail, right? And so it was shocking to me when I got knock on the door and they said that, Joshua had died. And I was like, okay, did they find him on the side of the road? What happened? Nope, he died in jail. Instantly, I said, did he get stabbed? Like, what happened? And he said, no, it was due to drug complications. And I knew because so then for 10 months, I'm like, well, gosh, did he choke? What happened? And then to read this report, it just makes me want to come undone. I am so not okay. And every single one of those people are going to be held accountable. Every one of them. And I want to see change. I want to see change. I want to know what's going on in there. I cannot even imagine somebody else having to go through this. I can't. And it's a brand new jail. Can you imagine? Brand new jail. And 3 people died in a little over a year in a brand new jail. 2 of them were hangings. One of them died in the same cell that Joshua did in the hole the week before. They pretty much like enticed him and let him know that there was a little gap between the light fixture, and two out of the 3 people who died hung themselves. And they knew about the little loop that they could put the sheet through. Both of them did it the same. So, and I heard that the officers were encouraging them. If you're going to do it, there's a little gap. So it's just alarming to me. I had no idea that this is how people are being treated. And I am all for, I know we need jails, but for him to be treated that way it's deliberate indifference, complete, and it's malice, deliberate malice.
Yeah, I noted in your civil complaint the 3 prior deaths in the jail. On January 8th, 2024, John Swain died by hanging in the same cell. On February 26, 2023, Aaron Lewandowski died by hanging. And February 24th, 2020, Richard Noon, it says he died due to acute methamphetamine intoxication, but did not receive medical intervention. I had a case where I did do an acuity review and I assessed an individual in jail because he wanted to die. And he said that a noose was waiting for him when he came back to his cell. And I couldn't determine whether, if it was true or part of his psychosis, right? In any event, I did an acuity review and got him immediately out of there. And he lived, and his family thanked me. It was serious. He did intend to use that. Mm-hmm. And he is safe now, and his family reached out to me, sending me many messages, which reminded me why I do what I do. I know there are good outcomes. And this case is shocking. Seeing the number of times that an intervention could have occurred. And Joshua documented, he repeatedly made statements. One of his statements says, "I will be withdrawing from fentanyl, and I had to go to the hospital last time I was here to receive Suboxone, so I won't die." So there were multiple times when he is making it clear about his medical history and the prior interventions where they did transfer him to the hospital.
I'm assuming there was a screening conducted when he, during the intake, when he was brought to the jail, and these things were made known to them. And
he was very forthcoming, and he told them exactly how much he did. He knew, because he obviously knew he was going to die. He knew if he didn't get help, it was going to happen.
Yeah. He didn't minimize. He understood the dangers. Yeah,
absolutely. And they asked, and in the intake, it has him, how much do you want to get help? And he said, extremely. All of his answers were extremely, extremely, extremely. So
it'd be helpful for listeners who are not familiar with the process when someone's arrested. I've arrested a number of individuals over the last 30 years of my life. The jail always conducts some type of intake process. It's as simple as, it's your name and address to, have you used drugs or alcohol? And once they're made aware of that, you'd like to believe there's some policies and procedures in place and some people with hearts in place to react appropriately and put those people in the right area or have them monitored or taken to the hospital or whatever the appropriate protocol is. But sounds like they at least had some of those procedures in place, but it sounds like they did not follow them. Just from listening to you, which is just devastating.
I also noted failure for timely safety checks.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's actually when I worked in the psych hospital, doing 15-minute checks would be something we would do if someone was high risk. So you on the minute you're doing it, or you have cameras on them all the time, or you're physically checking them. And, but in cases like civil lawsuits where the nurse or whoever in this case is supposed to do the check, they recognize they didn't, or they're late and they don't want to admit that, right? So they'll maybe change the time or say they did the check, and, or they're way late or way off now, right? And this can, I think you use the word deliberate indifference. So my experience in working in some of these settings, I've seen people over time become hardened and emotionally disconnected. And I've seen people, professionals, actually discriminate or withhold help in occasions, which is, medical malpractice. It's unethical, and there are things I've observed, and I try to bring awareness. And even on my last day working in the psych hospital, I had a meeting and had everyone talk about burnout and how to recognize when you are emotionally taxed so high, you're just barely existing or caring for your own self, how to recognize that, maybe take time off, or just, over my time working through thousands of suicide interventions or having deaths in my own family, you can feel pretty overly taxed, emotionally. So, but it's so important for people professionally to recognize if they're burnt out, or now it's impairing their objectivity and they can't do their jobs. So one of my roles is too, I'm really big on ethics and bringing awareness to other professionals when they're now crossing the line and they need to leave work or be terminated, or it's a liability. We're going to have a lawsuit. And every time I brought these individuals up to my employer or supervisor, because it's a risk, I'm seeing the risk. The risk is death. It's been shocking for me in my profession to see professionals, not follow the rules and become indifferent and just callous. And then they're at a point where they can lose their medical license or become terminated. But here we are in this case. There are people that should be held accountable. There wasn't an intervention. There should have been. There's multiple people involved here. What message would you want to share? I know this is personal with Trinity County Jail, but what is the message that you want people to hear?
There's so much. I just want people to know that my son was amazing. He was an amazing kid. And I understand there's so many people who go through the same thing, He had a big heart. Everybody loved him. He was kind. He got wrapped up in this. And there were so many times he was in different facilities. He started college, the top of 23. And he was full of life. And I'm just very, very sad. I am sad I'm not going to have any grandchildren from him. I'm sad I only got 32 years with him. And he was raised in Trinity County. And so it's even more impactful that they knew me. I was a business owner there. And so they know he was my son. And that is alarming. I also do not ever want to have anybody. I don't ever want to have to hear that somebody's ever died in there ever again, ever. I would like to go in there and see their policies. I would like to have them run me through what would happen if, I had to be locked up. I want to know that there are things in place that weren't when he was in there. And yes, I'm not disputing that he used drugs. Was it frustrating? Yes. But he didn't deserve to die the way he did. He deserved to die on his own terms, not Trinity County's terms. And they could have let him out the next day, but they kept him. And I don't understand that. So their policies, and I don't know if they're trying to get the word out, like, don't come to jail or we're going to, manhandle you. I don't understand the policies that they get him naked. I don't like that. That part, I don't like at all. I think it's very perverse when everybody named in his case are men. So you're going to, what is that? That needs to go. I think it's disgusting, and it bothers me that he died naked.
Can you explain or tell me more about why he was naked for extended period of time?
I wish I knew. I don't know if he had if they strip him down, and I know that they do that I don't know, is it I want to see dehumanize or take away every single piece of self-esteem that they've had. I mean, I don't know. And that's they're taking everything away that's personal. There's nothing left, right? And why is a 32-year-old man, why are they making him get naked? It just bothers me. So that, I don't understand that.
Was he in a safety cell or medical unit?
No.
Okay.
The first part, when he had been initially in there, then we had him in there, I think for I think they said 45 minutes they observed him, and then they put him in his own cell. And then what happened was he was sick because he was crying, begging for, Suboxone. He started throwing up and he was on the top cell or top bunk, and he was, vomiting on the bottom guy, who was then frustrated and mad and angry. And so they take him and his bucket and they take him to the hole because he was making a mess in the cell. So naked, walking down with his bucket half full of brown vomit, because he's obviously bleeding now from his stomach, and put him in the hole where he begged and cried and begged and screamed, to where the other inmates were so worried. They were banging and calling for help because he was screaming from the bottom of his soul. They said it wasn't a normal scream. It was like, I'm going to die. And I don't know what happened when you can be a human and be okay with that. And not one person in there in 3.5 days could help him. I don't understand. The hospital's a mile away. And like I said, I could put him on my back and carried him there and still saved him, Did he get a phone call? No, he sure didn't. Does he know his mom's phone number by heart? Yes. So there's so many wrong things, so many. And the worst thing is there's nothing. I can't go back and change it. I can only go forward and change what I can. So they need retraining. And they need to throw out that. I don't know. I'm big, you're small. I don't know. That needs to stop.
At what point was this, I believe it was a physician assistant who was supposed, so normally there's a medical provider on site at the jail. If it's a PA, which is a physician assistant, or an NP, which is a nurse practitioner, those licensed individuals are licensed under a psychiatrist. Typically, in my experience, the psychiatrist is not on site. They work remotely. And so through vicarious liability, the PA or NP that can assess the inmates at the jail is the person on site. And usually they'll reach out to their supervisor that is going to be the psychiatrist. So maybe remotely having access. And there's certain laws in place about time to respond and giving supervision. And what happened there? So at some point, there's communication from Joshua that he's going through withdrawals. He's telling the deputies. So this is all being documented very clearly. And then at some point, the PA assesses him. Can you tell me more about that?
The PA didn't assess him. So the superintendent on call made the decision. And the guy that was assessing Joshua when he went in called the supervisor who was at home and said he is withdrawing. And the supervisor said, oh, well, he'll have at least 24 hours, until he starts withdrawing.
And who is the supervisor? What is their title or profession? They're not medical.
No, but apparently because the medical had a sabbatical leave, the jail commander was doing the medical assessing as well. And so he was doing two jobs, and he wasn't even there. He was at home. So then he said to call, the nurse practitioner or whatever. And as you read through, the nurse finally calls back and says, how is Joshua doing? And they look through his window. He's probably half dead at this point, right? And they said, oh, he's sleeping. He's fine. Didn't go in, never went into his cell to even check his pulse, see where he's at, give him evaluation. The doctor the nurse practitioner just called. How is he doing? Oh, he's good. He's sleeping. And that was it. Nothing else from the doctor till Joshua died. Nothing.
So the closest we got to an evaluation was just looking through the small window and making an observation.
Yes. And so he was screaming. So by day 3, he was so sick. And when they had made him walk to the hole, the inmates looked at him and said he looked like he was dying. He was so skinny because he had been, and so at one point he had a seizure because I'm thinking he's dehydrated, right? Your body, because he hasn't been taking anything. He falls off and he hits his head on the ground and he seizes. So while he's seizing on the ground, that's when one of the deputies come and they say, don't go in there. He could be combative. And then they call another officer. Instead of calling 911, they just go, I need your help. You need to come, And then they finally go in there and Josh was, he's dying. And so then they decide to you need to call at the ambulance. I don't understand it. I will never, my biggest question is why? Why would you do that? There's not I can't even imagine any of my children not helping somebody. That's why all the other inmates they were banging on the door. He needs help. He needs help. He's sick. And so I did my own research because I didn't know, in his medical records, he had fentanyl and he also had methamphetamine. And I'm like, that's really strange. So Joshua, I think he was in 3rd grade when his teacher said, Stacy, I think you might have a little AED. I'm like, well, I'm not going to put him on any medicine because I don't know the long-term effects of that. And he's a boy who is a little more active, right? So Joshua noticed, like when he started, he would do the pills. So he liked that to kind of, that relaxing. Oh, he did whatever. And then he went to heroin, right? When the pill industry, they put the kibosh on that. And so then he went to heroin. And then, so I'm like, I don't even know what fentanyl is. So I looked it up and I realized that they cut it with methamphetamine, I guess. Yeah. And it's not very much. Just like you said, it's like 2 grains of sugar or salt can wipe you out. So it's shocking. And I also feel like the jails need to have, they know how to deal with a drunk person. They know how to deal with somebody on meth. They know how to deal with somebody who's on heroin, but they don't know how to deal with somebody who's on fentanyl. And so that needs to be implemented, the training, because it's getting through our borders. So if they know it's coming through, so they need to implement more education and training for these officers so that they're not dying anymore.
Yeah, and there should be clinical staff in the jail. I worked in jail, and there was a psychiatrist, there was a physician assistant that was prescribing on site. There's nurses, there's medical staff. There's a protocol that should be followed. The COWS protocol, which stands for Clinical Opiate Withdrawal Scale. So there's procedures in place. We're, pretty standard procedure. Always erring on the side of caution. Me working in the psychiatric facility for many years, individuals would be brought and have to be medically cleared first through the emergency room. And then you get your tox screen to see what is in their system. Then you know how to treat them. So in any individual, if you're arresting someone, you can always take them to the emergency room for clearance first, which happens a lot. So in which you should always err on the side of caution. So then the emergency room, once they clear them, then they could go to jail. Or the emergency room may say they need further psychiatric stabilization. We're going to transfer them to a psychiatric facility. The emergency room can hold them for so many days, right? But so getting that tox screen is important because then it guides their treatment and sometimes the person isn't able to communicate very well. But if someone is clearly communicating that they're withdrawing, take them at their word and err on the side of caution. Take them to the emergency room and let the medical professionals handle it. If they get to the jail and you're realizing that now, like this is happening, then you can immediately take them to the emergency room. I know, because you can call the emergency room and have them transferred there. And that's a medical professional's responsibility. So there always should be someone assessing them when they get to jail and making that call. Otherwise, they're liable. And this is high risk. These people are very vulnerable and high risk for overdosing. So we know this. So take them to the emergency room. The jail's not fully equipped medically to handle a lot of these things. I wish that the jail was more so, and I'd like to see that implemented in the future. One of the things the jail can't do is involuntary medication orders, known as IMOs, when someone is, say, for example, combative, if they're alleging someone's combative. Well, when I worked in the psych hospital, we could handle combative people. We could put them in restraints and give them medication. And so we did that often, right? For safety reasons, to save that person's life, right? So when they're a danger to themselves or others. So there's many times when individuals need to be immediately transferred out of the jail. And maybe never go there in the first place. They need to just take them to the emergency room before you take them to jail. That's all.
Yes. Yeah.
And even the times they miss, I'm not saying they should miss, but times that maybe they suspect the person's lying or there's some indication that there isn't a problem. If the inmate or the person they brought in is saying there's a problem, you're going to know pretty quick. Withdrawal symptoms are going to reveal themselves pretty quick. On the street, all that being dope sick. You're gonna see the headaches, the fever, the stomach pains, the vomiting, which you indicated, diarrhea. I mean, you're gonna see the dope sickness, the withdrawal symptoms pretty fast. And to not respond, not only with compassion, but to just not respond it's just monster behavior.
It's unbelievable. It's shocking. It's just unbelievable. And so then, I go, wow, is this happening? Is this what's happening in jails all across the I didn't know. And so to read the behavior and the mentality of these people who were murderers, essentially, how can you be that way? And your parents, I would be very disgusted with my children if they didn't help somebody. I think that's just horrible. Do the right thing.
No, I agree. I not to defend jails, but I'd like to believe that this is, more isolated than, and not that it's right by any means.
Right. No, I understand.
Hopefully it's an isolated incident and not something that's widespread. But I'll say from my perspective, you both talked about it, the feelings, the callous, I call it, but we call it the stigma, right? There's a stigma to folks who suffer from drugs and alcohol. And it's something I train on when I talk to people is that stigma keeps so many of us from understanding and being a little bit more compassionate. These are human beings. How do we not do the right thing? You may not agree with their behavior. You may think there needs to be consequences for drug use. I'm certainly not advocating that it's okay to use drugs, but my God, they're human beings. Just have a little bit of compassion, have a little bit of understanding of what's happening and get them help, right? Think of it this way. You get them help, then perhaps they don't return to the jail because they can get on a path to permanent withdrawal and safety from the drugs. But very sad situation. I really am sorry for you and your family. And
I appreciate it. I've always, I know we need jails. I've always been a supporter of them. And so I think that part of it is so hard too. I understand that. And I'm sure it is frustrating to have a repeat, drug user. But you're right. I believe, and I know in my heart that they don't wake up and want to be a drug user they don't want that lifestyle. But I believe that it gets so wrapped up and it gets so far that they don't think that they can ever recover from that, or they've lost all their self-esteem from, the drug use. And so I've spent many years telling him, it's just robbed you of your self-esteem. You're amazing, And so they are human, and he was compassionate. He was loved. He was full life, and he's very missed. I miss him so much every day, So this is my journey now to make sure that justice is served for Joshua. And I will not stop till I know that every single person who turned their head will be held accountable. He would be. He went to jail for petty theft. So,
Stacy, tell me about your attorney, Mark Marin.
So Mark Marin and Paul, I forget how to say his last name. I want to say Galusha. My brother actually directed me to contact them, a few days after Joshua's death. And of course, I didn't want to. I was like, because it's just so impactful. I'm like, I can't. I just need to swallow this giant turtle that was shoved down my throat. So he said, no, so he really told me, you need to contact them. They know you're going to call them. Do it now. And so I finally did. And they've been great. I know that I know Mark Marin is a person of interest when people die in jail in Sacramento. So he was, recommended, and that's really, he's been great. They've they've had to really push for all of Josh's medical records. We just finally got his autopsy, February 14th. It was signed December 11th. It was dated December 11th. So everything has been, they've not wanted to give up anything, so it's been nice. They've been great. So it's, going through anything like this, I really don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah, I'm glad you have good legal support. You acted right away. You sought out an attorney, which is what anyone should do. Get an attorney and see if you have a case. Get the records. And yeah, I noted there was a delay in records, or they'll decline your request for records. And don't give up. You keep asking for them. I get records. I demand records.
Well, I have everything now. I have video, which my attorneys have highly told me do not watch it, but I'm glad I have it. I want it. It's part, this is him. This is why he died and how. I have no desire. I already have it in my head because I've read the report, which was made from the video. But now it's just, the discrepancies in some of those, like his autopsy, which I think is absolutely, I don't know, Brian, but Joshua was in the hospital. He went to the hospital because he was picked up 2 weeks prior. He weighed 175 pounds. Fast forward 2 weeks, gets picked up, doesn't eat anything but one apple in 3.5 days. One apple. His autopsy said that he was a healthy 32-year-old, 180-pound man.
Wow.
So he's gained weight when he was sick. Yeah, craziness. So that makes me, I want to believe that people are doing the right thing, but it's shocking that they're not. So I live my life truthfully. I like the truth, When they said Joshua had died, I thought, he's been doing drugs. I fully expected it to be on his own terms. So this was just a whole new ball game for me, and it's shocking. So
what is up with this medical examiner? I know we talked the other day and it seemed suspicious.
The medical examiner, the pathologist, 80 years old. And from Oregon, and they fly him in, and apparently he does all the surrounding counties, Trinity, Humboldt, Siskiyou, Glenn, all of them. But I'm like, 80?
Okay, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Because I am encountering these professionals who have aged out. They're in their 80s and they're not fit for duty. In fact, yesterday I testified in court and the other professional came to testify. And as he was testifying, and I realized he had dementia. And he read a document that was not written by him. It was written by a defendant, in fact, made up and forged, which is a crime. And the professional was confused and couldn't recognize it, but then he said he must have wrote it, but he doesn't remember. And I was shocked. Now I have an ethical obligation to report this person. They were quite elderly. They weren't aware of their impairment. But sometimes the person that hires them is aware by design because they want something. And I've found even recently in the jail, a licensed psychiatrist who's in their 80s. And I read the records. I read the note. And I was like, we've got to go. You need to resign today, sir. You're unfit for duty. Your diagnosis was absolutely way off track. Wrong meds. I'm not even a psychiatrist. Then he wasn't even there. Deputies were handing out the meds, allegedly. So I'm aware of all these problems, and this is the purpose of this podcast. I'm trying to bring awareness and solutions to change and talk about this. And it is serious. And everything that we just described too, this discrimination where people thinking drugs are wrong. Drugs are wrong. We know this. Medical professionals are best equipped to help with this. And people that have this mentality to not give these people help, they're not fit for duty. And I've worked with nurses who actually withheld help from inmates because they had a bias because of their crime. And one of them, nurses had on their screensaver, "We know more than the doctor. We don't," like, they were, it's kind of like, but they didn't. They were LVNs. They're not qualified to make these decisions. But that type of attitude is so problematic. And it starts with your attitude of just discriminating and treating people less than. My job, I see a lot of defendants in custody. I don't even call them criminals, but some of them who have done deplorable actions or are in fact convicted of murder or rape or crimes. But my job is always to remain neutral, and I'm not casting judgment. I have just a certain role, and I understand where I began and where I end, which is diagnosing, treating, or informing of risk, or getting a medical intervention. And so I just want to tell people out there, if you're listening, like, if you're feeling you're in this emotional deficit going to work and you're feeling burnt out, because I've seen it with my colleagues, and I've always told myself, I've told everyone around me, if you ever catch me being burnt out, then well, I'm going to tap out myself. I'm going to quit my job or get a new job or change careers. So then I'm really not fit for duty. But it's a slippery slope, and it's very scary, and it costs people's lives. And I can't accentuate this enough for people to hear. But now here we are, a lawsuit where these people are going to be held responsible, but even criminally responsible. So here we are. This is preventable. But it really starts with that bias in their mind of discriminating, or what you think about even calling them a criminal, or assuming they're just a drug addict, or they're not worth this call. And I think sometimes, like, working in corrections, I've seen people get so hardened that they're not doing the right thing. And so there has to be protocols and checkpoints in place. And I'm happy with Brian or Stacy, like, doing in-services, providing education, right? I'm available to do these things and do acuity reviews. Hire me first instead of in a wrongful death lawsuit. I prefer these things not to happen. And by the way, 100% of the time when I've been called in for psychiatric acuity reviews, I've saved their life and had 100% success rate. So we all can do better. We can do this. And sadly, one of the things I'm most shamed about is that the budget cuts are always what I hear. They're short on staff, short on budget. I know they can't hire me or afford me, or they don't have enough. Make it happen, because they spend millions and millions of dollars every year in these civil suits, and they are preventable. They are foreseeable. And when you set up the precautions, it's like, so make it happen. So I'm really tired, even at currently with some of the agencies I work with, they're cutting so many costs, or just cutting medical care out, or cutting psychiatrists out, or cutting nurses out, or like not even having a forensic psychologist like me available. You have to. Like, you can call me anytime, retain me. So I want everyone to step up their game and just recognize the serious risk of these inmates in custody. And, this is preventable. So I'm happy to share your message. Not under these circumstances, I'm not happy, but I want to help support your message for change. And let me know any way that I can do that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to support you emotionally from human to human, from mother to mother. And it's also personal. I have a sibling who's used fentanyl, who has been on the streets for years. And over the decades, and even over the more recent years, I've seen the decline. And it is probably the most traumatizing thing to watch unfold through the years. To feel not able to help someone, but to watch them suffer, or to watch the addiction. And it's complicated for a lot of people to understand. But Brian, I just thank you so much, Brian, for your passion and your outreach. I can tell that you're doing great work.
I appreciate that. And my condolences to you and your family. We lose over 100,000 people in this country to drugs now. And the majority of those people, at least 2/3 of those people, are because of this one deadly drug, fentanyl. And, think about the people we didn't lose. Those are people that are suffering. And those are people that also deserve our compassion and empathy. And without that number is going to continue to rise. And we can all do more, and we can all be better. And remember that, we just need to be here for each other. So.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Brian, thank you. Can you share your website address where people can contact you? You can book Brian as a speaker for your agency.
Yeah, thank you. It's only 2mg, so ONLY, and then just the number 2, and then MG. So www.only2mg.com has information about the presentations that I'm currently offering, my schedule, my bio, how to contact me. Like I said, I'm about to do my 100th presentation in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about that. It's a great milestone, and it's more than just a milestone. It's just part of this mission and this journey that I'm on, and hopefully I'm raising awareness and helping people understand the threat that we face every day.
Well, Brian, you're a wonderful soul. So I really appreciate you. And people can donate to Brian's nonprofit. I don't know if people really realize running a nonprofit and doing a lot of pro bono work is, it's tough, and you don't always get a lot of appreciation or money, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do and you're passionate about it. So I would just encourage anyone that has the means to donate to Brian, because he does these speaking events, I know, for free many times for people that don't have the resources. So we appreciate you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Stacy, any final words that you want to share about Joshua, or how people can support you, for people that are hearing your story and they want to help, and maybe they want to reach out to you, or just provide social justice, or just peer support, or just follow you? What is the best way for them to connect with you?
Oh, they can connect with me on my Facebook page. I do have a, page, Justice for Joshua. I've tried to put everything on there. So they can reach out. I have Instagram as well. Either one of those. My email. So, but one of the things is like you said, I really feel like people need to have compassion. I understand it's a problem. We drive down the road and you see it and it's frustrating, but there has to be something that can be done. There has to be, like you said, we have to be better. There has to be something better. And
I want accountability, and you're going to get that.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we're going to do more than that. We can change the laws. We can influence outcomes. And that's the purpose of this podcast. So Thank you for everyone that's listening and joined us today. And thank you, Stacy and Brian, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For episode details and merch, check out killerpsychologistpodcast.com. And for forensic services, you can book online at psychologydr.com. That's psychologydoctor.com.